What is going on, everyone? It is Tyler McKinney back here again, and today we're going to get back into professional wrestling, and man, I have just been enjoying it. And if you haven't watched my video yet on why you too should be watching professional wrestling, you should check that out. I give you 3 reasons why, and so you can get my reasons why you should be watching it. But if you haven't been yet, you need to be tuning in on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock to AEW Dynamite on TNT. And let me tell you, it legitimately has been dynamite, and this episode, it might be the best episode of AEW Dynamite that I have seen. If you are a professional wrestling fan, it literally has everything encompassed in it that you would want. If you love storyline, they've got story for you. Great cut promos. If you want some really good technical wrestling, they definitely have that. If you want star power, it has star power. It has just about everything that you could ever want in a wrestling show. It was fantastic. I loved every moment of it. I had a fantastic time watching it. And it left us with one big question. And that is, who is this AEW signing that Paul Wight was talking about when he came out and said that AEW is going to, at Revolution, they are going to be signing a Hall of Fame caliber wrestling talent, Hall of Fame caliber talent that's huge, that's a big name in the wrestling business. And Tony Kahn has also talked about that today. He came out and made comments about that very thing today. Give us a little bit more into it. And they've really been hitting it hard on this. And one thing I do want to mention with this, I do not think that this is a bait and switch, because Cody Rhodes has come out and said that listen, we're not into this whole thing of, building it up and not, living up to the hype that we're giving things. We're not going to do that. We're not going to lead the fan on to think that they're going to get something when they're not going to. So if they've really been touting this, really putting this out there, I'm really thinking that they're going to come out with something big and something huge. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to kind of give you the obvious names and kind of my thoughts on that. And then I'm going to give you 2 names that I think that are really interesting that could quite possibly be that I really haven't seen people talking about today. So I'm going to be throwing them out there with that. So, it was just an awesome show, and here, I think I'm gonna start getting into doing reviews of these weekly shows. I have so much fun with them, and I just kind of want to get my thoughts out there with it. So you're definitely going to be seeing more and more wrestling type content from me. If you like that, please let me know. Leave a like down below, and if you haven't yet, consider subscribing. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about these kind of wrestling talents that I'm kind of talking about and that I'm going to go with. The first and the number one thing I'm going to say is all of the obvious names that are big time WWE people, not going to happen. It's not going to be The Rock. It's not going to be Brock Lesnar. It's not going to be John Cena. It's not going to be Batista. It's not going to be any of those people that you're thinking. It's not going to be Kurt Angle. It's not going to be those guys. And I'm even going to go through to some of the Attitude Era kind of guys, or around the Attitude Era guys, the RVDs who are still doing things, the Ken Shamrocks. That's not going to happen. One, Ken Shamrock just finished a thing on Impact that didn't go really well, and I really wouldn't pick him up with that. And 2, RVD, that just wouldn't be, if you ask me, that wouldn't be a big enough of a name for a draw. Maybe it is, but that, if you ask me, if you're going to build it up that big and have Paul Wight come out and say that this person's a huge name, that's not it for me. Paul Wight's a bigger name than RVD, and so it would almost be the swap of it if you had that. So that's not the name for me. That would be the, this big shock and all cool thing. The one that I think that has some legs and they could be doing a bait and switch with us is CM Punk. I don't think that that's going to happen. I would not get your hopes up. Paul Wight even said it himself. He said during the broadcast that it's not who you think it is, but it's going to be a huge, big name in the wrestling business.
And so I don't think it's going to be CM Punk. They're not going to lead us on. And let me tell you, the AEW has too much respect for its fan base to lead them on that way and to let them down like that. They're not going to do that. They're not going to pull that off on their fans. That's just not what that's not what they do. They have no record of doing that, and you're not going to see the CM Punky thing, even though I know that he's like his contract's done and things of that nature. With that, the one that I would really like to see, and a name that's been thrown out a lot that everybody's been talking about, is Christian. Christian it'd be a fantastic get for them. He still has a lot of left in the tank, and he showed it at the showing in the Royal Rumble, and it hasn't seemed to be that he signed a contract with WWE. I mean, we don't really know his status with WWE, but we do know that he showed he's got a lot left in the tank. And from his interview, it seems like he's willing to work again and get back in the ring. And this is somebody who they're planning on signing to a multi-year deal, to somebody that's really wanting to work. And he looked like he was a guy who wanted to work. So I would be really stoked. This would be my favorite one of all of the signees if that happened with him, because I think he could come in and do what Matt Hardy's been doing and do a fantastic job. Speaking of Matt Hardy, he's been doing a fantastic job. He's not only lengthened his career with this and brought and reinvigorated his career, especially with this big money Matt angle. I love it, but he's bringing up younger guys and teaching them and showing them, the business and how to work the ring, how to work a match, how to work a mic, how to continue things on. And I think it's fantastic. He's really building up Adam Page right now, and he's also been taking private parties, especially that them being really very green in the business, and really growing them up, which has really been not only neat to see from a wrestling standpoint, but also from just a storyline standpoint. It's really been a neat thing, and I think that Captain Charisma can really come in there and really do that and really show and shine in this spot and really make a big splash. And the other thing is, Moxley's even said that he would love to see Christian there. And in WWE he was a guy that was really well respected in the locker room, and that seems to be a big important thing for AEW. So I could really see him being there with that. So that those he's would be kind of the bigger names out of that. I think you've got people they could throw out there. One that people have thrown out there is Zelina, Vega, and Trinidad. Let's see here. Thea Trinidad is. I think that she would be one. I don't think she would be as big of a splash, but people know her, and I think that she would really add depth to the women's division. They need help in the women's division with that. They need some more depth in there. They need a little bit more star power, and I think that she would bring some more legitimacy into that. And she's a great manager. She really knows how to work a mic, and that would bode really, really well for the women's division. Now, I'm going to give you my two picks that are people have not been talking about. The first one is Ryback. And listen, I don't really know a whole lot about where he sits, if he's wanting to get back in the ring or not, but he could definitely still wrestle. And I think he's got some name recognition to him, and he's been around long enough that the wrestling community would take this as a big deal, and I think he could come in and make a real big impact into AEW. So that's one name that people aren't really, throwing out there. That would be a big one. My one that I'm really interested why people aren't saying any more about it is, and this leaves me to where, if I had to pick one, I was going to throw something out there, and this would be the shocker and this and that. It would be Tessa Blanchard. And, the reason being is, and I know that Tony Schiavone came out and, he made this comment back in the middle of February. People are asking him if AEW was going to sign her, and he said, I haven't heard anything about AEW signing her, and I would have thought I would have heard something. And if you listen to Paul Wight, the way he said, when he was going back and forth and he and Tony Schiavone were having that conversation during Dynamite, he was saying, Tony, you're not the only person with the scoop and, who has the insider knowledge. I've got some inside information on a signing that's going to be happening. I know who it is, and it's going to be huge. And so it's almost hearkening and playing off of that whole thing that Tony Schiavone said he didn't know anything about them signing her. And so that would play right in perfectly to that they would sign her. And listen, back in 2019, she was the biggest women's wrestling name out there. And, she got into that whole thing. I'm not a fan of intergender matches, and it has nothing to do with being sexist or whatever. I think that's not my thing. I don't really like it in wrestling. I like women wrestling women. I like men wrestling men, and I like it that way. I wasn't really into her intergender matches, but I think she is a great talent, and she would be huge for AEW. Now I know that she got a lot of heat with things, back over a year ago, and that with it, and we would see how it would shake up the locker room. AEW, like I said before, is very, very cautious about their locker room, but things change over time, and we'll see what happens, especially when there's money to be made and big names to come in. And she would be a huge name, and she would fall right in there. And she's somebody that nobody's talking about with it. I could really see her coming in and helping a lot of these younger talent get better. That's what she does. I mean, she does a lot of working with women in wrestling, and helping them get better at their craft, developing them and that. And I think that would be great. And I think she would be really a torchbearer for them, and can be, kind of the one to be the face of, the women's division, and be right up there. Her and Britt Baker, I think could take that women's division. Sheeta, they've got some up there, but I think that would give them huge depth, huge name recognition there. Her father's already there, but you could tell we already know that, that she's never really used her relationship with her father to get her anywhere in the wrestling business. So I don't think that really has anything, of any importance here. The thing for me, though, that I really love about this is that really nobody knows what's going to happen. And I love that. I hope that it stays a mystery up until the end here. I hope that it's not like, a lot of with the WWE, we see where things are going. They kind of tell you where things are going. Like you don't like they've got to lead you along with this thing. And a lot of times things get leaked with what's happening in WWE. So it would be really, really nice if we could just get to Sunday evening and all be shocked, as we all learn at the same moment what all is going on, and that, it isn't just, X, Y, and Z, that we've learned before the show. And so it's just kind of, it's already a moot point with it and that with it. So I'm super excited for what we're going to find on Sunday evening and that with it. So those are kind of my thoughts on who I think it's going to be, who's going to be joining AEW. Like always, I'd love to know your comments. I'd love to know your thoughts. Tell me if I've been wrong, because I don't really get too much up on the social media and following everybody with what they're doing in their lives. So I could be dead wrong on a lot of these people with where their social media is at and what they've been doing and where they would be available and not available and what's happening. So if you got information, definitely let me know down in the comment section. I'd love to know who your top picks are, who you want, who you think it's going to be. And let's continue the conversation down there, because it's always fun, and you guys are always come up with some really neat and interesting comments, so I'd love to hear from you down there. All right, guys, I know that you're busy. I know that I'm busy, so let's get on out of here. You have a good night. Bye.